CBS Sports.
The Duke Blue Devils have one of college basketball's most decorated histories. 2 national championships and 7 Final Fours in the last 13 years. This season, Coach K and his stars Elton Brand and Trajan Langdon have the Blue Devils ranked number 2 in the land and are ready for a run all the way to St. Petersburg. Today, they'll face another of the game's great programs, St. John's. New coach Mike Jarvis has the Red Storm back in the top 10. Super sophomore Ron Artest leads the team in scoring and assists and has all of New York thinking about a big-time upset. CBS Sports welcomes you inside Madison Square Garden for today's top 10 battle between number 2 Duke and number 9 St. John's. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Sean McDonough along with Billy Packer. It is great to have you with us. This game is sold out. It's the first sellout at Madison Square Garden for St. John's in 3 years. Billy, tremendous anticipation for this game.
Well, you've got the number 4 and number 5 winningest programs of all time in college basketball going head-to-head. And, of course, 2 teams led by outstanding basketball players. Elton Brand for Duke, the last time he played on this court, he led the United States to the Goodwill Gold Medal Championship, a powerful inside performer. And for St. John's, Ron Artest, who had only the 2nd triple-double in the school's history against Seton Hall a few weeks ago, an outstanding all-around player.
They know each other well. Duke and St. John's since 1991, back in the days of the ACC Big East Challenge. That game was won by Duke. Duke's won the last 4 head-to-head with the Red Storm. Mike Krzyzewski in his 19th season at Duke. His win at Clemson on Wednesday night was career victory number 450 in Durham. His starting lineup has Elton Brand between Shane Battier and Chris Carrawell. And in the backcourt, William Avery and Trajan Langdon. Mike Jarvis in his first year at St. John's off to a tremendous start at 16-3. He's been a winner everywhere he's been at Boston University, George Washington prior to his trip to Jamaica. Albert Richardson is the starting center for the injured Tyrone Grant. Artest and Jesse the rest of the front court. Eric Barkley, a very talented freshman point guard, and Bootsy Thornton is the 2 guard. Brand will jump against Richardson. St. John's in white. Tim Higgins, Curtis Shaw, Larry Rose the officials. And we're underway. St. John's controlled the tip.
Good hands by Artest.
Barkley guarded in the man-to-man by Avery in a matchup of point guards. Artest lost the handle, got it back, and scored the first bucket of the game.
Battier may have some size, but Artest has power against him.
Artest averages 15 a game.
Battier, one of the top defensive players in the country, along with Chris Carrawell, the 2 Duke stoppers on defense.
Avery pestered all the way by Barkley. Carrawell guarded by Jesse.
Key matchups out here. Thornton right in Trajan Langdon's face in that jumper. Key matchup for Duke. They've got to get the ball down inside to Brand early, taking some away that outside perimeter pressure.
Offensive foul called on Artest, and Shane Battier has now taken 19 charges this year, and this is Duke's 20th game of the year. He set the single season school record for charges taken last year with 29. He's likely to break it this year.
Moving those feet defensively instead of the hands. Now, if you're Artest or any player that goes up against Battier, that's something in the scouting report you really have to be aware of on your penetration.
Carrawell to Langdon. 2-0 St. John's, more than a minute play. Brand powers it up inside.
That's the game for Duke early in this ball game, because they have great perimeter shooters, but St. John's has great quickness on the perimeter defensively, so you're not going to get your jump shot early in this game.
St. John's not big inside, particularly in the absence of Grant, out with a broken bone in his wrist. Will be out at least until early February. Even without Grant, St. John's not a big team, but without him, they're that much smaller.
Yeah, a real pivotal piece to the puzzle for St. John's.
Battier. Carrawell had his hands on the rebound. It was batted away by Artest, but there's an easy 2 for Carrawell.
Beautiful touch pass by Trajan Langdon. Duke has a tremendous advantage here from a rebounding standpoint in this ball game, so St. John's has to be very careful on their blockouts.
Tough pass, just saved by Artest to Bootsy Thornton. He's been hot lately, and he hits the runner. And the game's tied at 4.
Junior college transfer, sat out last year. They those quick hands by Barkley.
Now Jesse, 3-on-1. Artest unselfishly to Thornton.
This St. John's club has great team quickness. The other thing that it has, particularly when they have Grant in the lineup, everybody can catch the ball on the run and make a play.
2.5 minutes in, the Red Storm by 2. Madison Square Garden still filling up. Torrential rains outside. It's a late arriving crowd. Carrawell didn't get the bounce. Brand the rebound.
He has such a soft touch on the inside. So this summer in the Goodwill games, the United States team dropped their opener against Puerto Rico, then went on to win 4 straight to win that gold medal. And Brand was awesome against those older players, particularly in the final gold medal game against Australia that played a number of guys that have been in the NBA.
Brand averaged 17 points per game in the Goodwill game, 7.5 rebounds. The shot from Jesse rattled out, and a foul in the rebounding action against the Red Storm.
Good block out by Thornton inside, taking advantage of his position.
The ACC standings, Duke out of conference today, but off to a 7-0 start in the lead over Maryland. Those two seem to be clearly ahead of the rest of the pack. The foul was actually on Duke's Chris Carrawell, his first.
Well, one team that may want to argue with that's North Carolina, that's got Duke coming up Wednesday. But they'll have to prove it on the court.
Really the start of the big week for both teams. You mentioned the Duke-North Carolina game coming up. St. John's in the week ahead has a date at Syracuse, and then UConn back here next Saturday to host the #1 team in the country here on CBS. Avery was stripped, but Battier wound up with the ball. Nice move, but he didn't get the bounce.
There's Brand again with that double pump power. One of the things that St. John's also does pretty well that Duke hasn't seen is that when there are solid screens outside and there are switches, no matter who switches for a beautiful line, not even much of the screen, but when you switch against Duke, normally you got mismatches. In this particular case, St. John's can switch any man onto a Duke player.
Barkley fed Artest on the alley-oop, and Carrawell missed a jumper in transition. Now Richardson working on Brand. Brand got a piece of the ball and the rebound. Brand is dominating inside here in the first 4 minutes.
To put in perspective this tempo, St. John's scored 100 points for the first time in 6 years this year. Duke has already had 600-point games in this season.
This is the highest scoring team in the country, averaging 94 points per game.
So this is definitely not the pace that St. John's would like to play, even though it looks like they're staying with them right now.
The track meet at the moment. Jesse lost the dribble as they had a 3-on-2.
Here comes Duke again. This is really going to hurt St. John's if they try to play Duke at this pace.
Avery, an errant pass. Brand couldn't handle it, and a timeout. And these players likely need to catch their breath. Nearly 5 minutes in, 8-8 the score.
There's the perfect 45-degree angle for the Barkley alley-oop pass. Perfectly done without a good solid screen.
This being the most anticipated game in the metropolitan New York area in many years. Jason Williams, Sam Cassell among those in attendance. Jason, one of the great players in St. John's history. Spike Lee's here. We'll keep an eye on who he might be heckling as the day goes along. And of course, no St. John's game complete without Lou Carnesecca.
And without the sweater. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who Sam Cassell is rooting for. Of course, he played for Florida State. Duke and had outstanding teams at Florida State. Duke, one of the major rivals at that time. Maybe it's ACC against Big East. It'd be interesting to hear those two guys go after each other over there.
Var Postel off the St. John's bench. He has the ball now, number 25, an excellent 6th man. Very tough shot. Jesse around it, and he has a chance for 3.
Substitutions by Duke take Brand out of the ball game. You can see Mike Krzyzewski saying, okay, you want to play a up and down running game. Basically, Postel is the only answer that St. John's would have in that kind of situation. Duke pretty deep with a 9-man rotation. Good job inside by Jesse getting, again, position. Second time today, St. John's has been able to get superior position on the offensive glass.
First foul on Trajan Langdon. Jesse completed a three-point play, and now he has 3 points. Chris Burgess, Nate James, Corey Maggette, all into the Duke lineup.
First time today, full court zone pressure.
The freshman Maggette was stripped by fellow freshman Barkley. The Storm on the move again. Langdon intercepted, then traveled.
Well, Langdon came out of nowhere to pick that one off.
Came out of nowhere, really, in many people's opinion, to have a great career from Alaska. The greatest player in the history of that state from Anchorage, Trajan Langdon.
Hostel, good position inside. James finally beats him over the top. Duke sticking with man-to-man. St. John's has showed man-to-man, and then that full court zone pressure.
Barkley, a three.
Good touch. One of the outstanding freshmen in the United States is Eric Barkley. Terrific point guard. Plays well within himself, has quickness, can handle the ball, shoot it, play some defense, and he's given Avery all he can handle so far today.
Some say, Billy, that's what St. John's has been lacking most in recent years, a solid, true point guard. Chris Burgess, now Langdon. Stripped from behind by Bootsy Thornton.
There is that team quickness, and James comes back to steal one.
And he banked it home. Nate James averages 5 per game, has his first 2. The sophomore from Washington, D.C.
James, a guy that was a high school All-American, then due to injuries had to sit out a year, but now is starting to get more and more playing time as this season wears on.
He missed most of his first 2 years with thumb injuries and ankle and knee injuries. He rebounded the miss. Maggette fouled. He'll have a chance for a three-point play.
Maggette, the most athletic player on this Duke team, and they're full of him. The kid can run, he can leap, he loves to play, and has incredible statistics in basically 17 minutes a game played. There's that power he shows inside.
He averages 11 points per game in those 17 minutes and nearly 4 rebounds. The freshman from Bellwood, Illinois, in the Chicago area.
When you look across at his stats, he's shooting 57% from the floor, 40% from the three-point line. I mean, you go all the way across the line, you say that may be as productive as 17 minutes as you'll have anywhere in the country.
Dave Odom, the Wake Forest coach, says Maggette's as athletic a freshman has come into the ACC in a long time. And you think of all the great players in that league, that's a large statement. St. John's by 2, just more than 7 minutes played here at the world's most famous arena.
He's matched up with Artest right now, 2 physically gifted players.
Hostel's shot went spinning out to Brand.
Kind of a tough shot, gliding to the right.
5 rebounds already for Brand. Avery forced one up. Bootsy Thornton got a hand on it.
Now this is where Avery, who's being challenged with quickness by Barkley, has got to be patient in the game. That was a forced shot. Not a good offensive maneuver by a young guy that's had a great year so far.
Barkley went past Avery and missed the pull-up. Rebound Richardson. Blocked by Brand. Richardson fouled this time. Brand didn't need the help, but he had a teammate coming to his aid, James, who committed the foul.
Well, you have to figure Richardson, who has limited offensive ability, you can't go to help Brand on him, and that's what happens here. James comes across, commits a foul on a player that probably is not going to make that play. Have to use your head a little bit. If you've got a double on Richardson, somebody else on this St. John's team who's much more effective offensively is going to be open.
Albert Richardson, the senior from New Orleans, Louisiana, out of McCook Community College in Nebraska, where he played last year. Artest goes to the bench. Jesse's back in. Albert was an honorable mention junior college All-American. Averaged 21 points and 11 rebounds at McCook Junior College. Maggette rebounded the miss.
St. John's in their loss to Miami shot 16 for 30 from the line. Now this is a team that's small. When they get to the line, they're going to have to go ahead and make them, because they're not going to be a great offensive rebounding team, particularly not the likes of a squad the size of Duke.
These are 2 red-hot teams. St. John's has won 4 in a row and 13 out of 14, while Duke comes in riding a 13-game winning streak off its only loss of the year against Cincinnati by 2 points in the Great Alaska Shootout.
Good job by Richardson, forcing Elton Brand to take a step further out on that turnaround jump shot than normal.
Duke will inbound the basketball when we come back. This is a battle between the ACC and the Big East. In the 90s, one area in which there is no comparison between the two conferences, NCAA titles.
Well, this is kind of interesting. Big Ten and Big East. And the Big East has only had one team, your alma mater, the Cuse, in the Final Four in the 90s, which is kind of surprising. Considering the fact that one year they took 3 teams into the Final Four in the same season.
And a chance to tie the game for Corey Maggette. Duke scores right off the inbounding play.
Mike Jarvis throws up his hand. He didn't like the fact that there were some solid screens on the inside that he thought were somewhat illegal. Maggette slides right on through, and there's that power again. Even though he lost control of the ball, was able to go up inside. Big foul there, and the fact it's Artest's second foul. Mike Jarvis doesn't have a lot of places he can go on the bench to replace that, with Ty Grant unable to play today because of that risk.
And Mike also didn't think there was very much contact there to warrant the foul. Maggette missed the free throw, but Teruel got the rebound. Langdon open for 3, and that's a mistake.
That's just a great hit-ahead pass by Avery, and this team will wear you out from the outside. A tremendous three-point shooting basketball team.
And Langdon, one of the best in the country, individually at 46.5%. Postel unlucky again. That's his second shot that's rattled out. Artest is on the bench now with 2 fouls. Holland Charles is in the game for St. John's, number 11, a guard.
Look for Avery to test Charles.
Brand, that's a mismatch, and he's taking advantage of Richardson inside.
Yeah, what you have here is a situation where St. John's, and this is what's so tough, is going to have to double down with one of their forwards. They can't afford to do it with the guards because Avery and Langdon will kill you with 3.
Duke's on a 7-0 run. They've taken the lead. Thornton missed a shot. Richardson a rebound over Brand. But Brand off.
Oh, nice touch.
3 points for Albert Richardson. Avery couldn't get by Charles.
Richardson averaging 12 minutes a game. Boy, is he going to be expected to do a lot here today. And I don't know what he's going to do. And the fact that he's going to have to run up and down the court with a fresh Elton Brand. See right here on the inside, Brand maneuvering. He can go baseline or he can come across with a little half hook. And he's got that turnaround jumper and a lot of power. I tell you, from the waist on down, he is as strong as anybody who's been in college basketball since probably Corliss Williamson down at Arkansas. He used to be able to post up the same way.
Foul on Richardson was his first.
Charles Avery. Charles doesn't have that quickness, as I said before. Nice rebound
by Jesse, and he was fouled, and the mock cheer goes up from the partisans here at the Garden. I think that St. John's has been getting the short end of the whistles. The foul is on Brand, his first, and team foul number 4 on the Dukies.
Well, Duke has made 180 more free throws than their opponents. Duke has made 28 more than their opponents have even shot. So it's not unusual to see them have the advantage in that regard.
Barkley guarded by Avery. Barkley, Thornton, Postel, Jesse, and Richardson for the Red Storm of St. John's. Postel shuffled his feet, but he was fouled before he traveled. Well, we showed you Duke on top of the ACC. St. John's picked in the Big East preseason coaches poll to finish 4th. Is right now 2nd behind Connecticut with a game against the Huskies here next Saturday.
Probably the big movement in the league is the fact that Georgetown, a club picked to be a little higher than obviously they're not in that position in regard to preseason.
St. John's in the preseason coaches poll was picked to finish behind Connecticut, Syracuse, and Miami.
Miami solidly hanging right in there with that preseason prediction. Gave Connecticut all they could handle.
Took them to overtime in Miami before succumbing the other night. Teruel with the rebound and a foul as they went up the court against Reggie Jesse. And that is his first and the 5th team foul against the Red Storm.
Barkley back in, Charles out. Now Barkley gives Avery a lot more trouble than did Charles. Avery's got to be patient in this game. He's being guarded by a guy that's as equally as quick and got the same size matchup. He doesn't see that often.
Avery whipped it underneath, bodies tangled. 2 Blue Devils went down, James and Battier, and the pass went out of bounds. Already 7 turnovers committed by the Blue Devils.
And I think that's due to the good defensive man-to-man pressure and quickness by St. John's and their ability to be able to switch players and still have pretty decent matchups.
Derek Barkley, freshman who played last year at Maine Central Institute on the team that went 35-0. Jesse's shot rattled out. A tip wouldn't go for Thornton. Carrawell out of the crowd. Avery, a great pass. Brand couldn't catch it, and he was last to touch it.
Now you can see why this team will score 100 points a game. They'll take those kind of chances, but at 19-17 with as many turnovers as they had, they probably have to pull back a little bit in this one.
Near the conclusion of today's game, we'll select the Chevrolet most valuable player of the game from each team. Chevrolet will make a contribution to each school's general scholarship fund, a tradition for more than a quarter of a century. Duke by 2, just under 9 minutes remaining in the first half. Sean McDonough, Billy Packer, and a sellout crowd of more than 19,000 at MSG, and the ball goes out of bounds. Last touch by St. John's. 5 turnovers now by the Red Storm.
And they pick up full court, wanting to keep this pressure on, and you have to wonder, stamina-wise, whether St. John's can play this kind of pressure tactic this entire ball game.
Carrawell all the way into the lane, and then McGetty jammed home the miss.
Just picked it up underneath the rim and carried it through.
6 points off the bench for McGetty. Meanwhile, St. John's has hit one of its last 10 shots from the floor, and they've gone more than 2.5 minutes now without a field goal.
That was the same play, looking for that lob with the back screen, but wasn't there for Barkley. Here we'll see Carrawell gets an advantage inside. McGetty will get the ball down underneath the basket and just carry it right on up through. They said only 17 minutes a game that he plays, but he may be as tough a matchup as anybody will see coming off the bench in the country.
In high school, McGetty in Illinois was a state finalist in the long jump and the triple jump. Brand, look out, missed it. There's James to finish.
Artest had to be careful. He's got 2 fouls on him, and although he showed great hustle there, he could not challenge Elton Brand.
And a 20-second timeout called by Mike Jarvis. Tournament heritage for St. John's. We take you back to 1985, the West Regional Final at McNichols Arena in Denver. NC State and St. John's. Louis and Jimmy Valvano, the closing seconds of the game. Walter Berry went in for the slam that sealed the victory. And St. John's advanced to the Final Four for the first time since 1952.
Well, 3 guys still playing in the NBA off of that team. Wennington and Mullen and Jackson. Jackson and Mullen playing for the Indiana Pacers this year. Many people feel will be the NBA championship. So Louis got to be proud of that alumni group.
Michael Jordan says Indiana is his pick to win the NBA title this year.
And you know, when you think of Duke St. John's on a Sunday, you go back to 1979, what was considered Black Sunday in North Carolina. Penn upset North Carolina. St. John's beat Duke. Duke and North Carolina expected to go to Greensboro and work their way to the Final Four. It just didn't happen.
Good hands by James. He knocked the ball out of the hands of Richardson. Jesse got the rebound of the miss. Thornton for 3, and they are ice cold. Saved by McGetty, and here comes Avery.
Well, they're getting the shots. Sometimes you wear down a little bit and you don't have your legs for the jump shot. Thornton's been working hard on defense.
Long drought for the Red Storm. They're down by 6. McGetty was stripped by Jesse. Avery got it. McGetty an open 3.
Probably not a good shot, but you can see there's just no blocking out. What happened here? Barkley got caught on the switch. He's not used to blocking out a guy like Carrawell. It went right by him for the putback.
Carrawell has 4. He's a junior from St. Louis. Thornton might have gotten away with a walk, and he made the shot in the middle of the lane.
And here comes Duke again. Boy, do they put pressure on. You have got to be ready.
Avery, a quick 3, almost from the NBA line.
Well, Avery came to college as a 2 guard. Made the adjustment last year with Wojciechowski as a point guard. And this year now, showing he can be a point guard and a scorer at the same time. And off goes James and Maggette. They're all running again.
8 rebounds now for Brand. Maggette. Foul called. And it's going to be a blocking foul called against Bootsy Thornton.
Here we'll see Barkley at a guard position, not used to blocking out. He should be here. Instead, Carroll will go right to the basket for the put in. Watch Barkley. Turns his head. There goes his man.
Timeout. Duke has opened up a 9-point lead. 6:24 left in the first half. Duke by 9. Duke has a decided size advantage. And the Blue Devils have used that advantage to pick up 7 more rebounds than St. John's, and they're also a deeper team. They have 10 bench points to none for Mike Jarvis's Red Storm. Mike Jarvis, 53 years old, a native of Boston, and he's never had a losing season. Now in his 14th year as a major college head coach.
Oh, Artest falls asleep on the out of bounds. He was watching the action on the strong side. Maggette went right down the lane against him.
And Maggette has 8 points. 8 of those 12 Duke bench points, and the lead is up to 11, the largest lead for the Blue Devil. They need Artest.
Boy, that was a powerful inside move against Carroll. Was an outstanding defender.
That was really a key in the game, Billy, when Artest got his second foul, because when he went out, that the momentum shifted in favor of Duke.
Right, and here we have a lot of time left. There's pretty good defense by Richardson. Here's what we're going to talk about. Artest is watching all the activity over here in the out of bounds, and watch what happens to him. Has his head turned just as Barkley did earlier. It's amazing. He kind of falls asleep on it, and there goes his man in for a layup. Boy, you've got to be able to see your man and the ball at all times. As fundamental as they teach back in the 6th grade. Artest, who's an outstanding player, lost it on that one.
Meanwhile, Brand called for the offensive foul, his second. He's on the bench. Chris Burgess is back in. LeVar Postel scores from the middle of the lane.
Postel has had some tough luck on some earlier shots. That was an excellent jump stop. Very explosive scorer off the bench.
He's a junior from Albany, Georgia. Mike Jarvis has been telling Postel to go to the basket more often. Early in the season, he relied too heavily on the 3-point attempts. Maggette traveled.
Now, one of the things about Maggette, and of course it comes with experience, when he gets on a roll, as he is in his first half, he has a tendency to try to do too much too soon. And if he'll just be patient with his game a little bit, he's got so much ability, it'll all come.
And the only scholarship freshman on the Duke team this year. Duke by 7, approaching 5 minutes left in the first half. Artest.
Oh, he just took Langdon and overpowered him inside. That's not a good matchup for Duke. Trajan Langdon being in good shape, but he can't handle Ron Artest on the low post.
And a 20-second timeout called by Mike Krzyzewski. Great heritage in the NCAA tournament for both of these schools. So many memories for Duke. We take you back to perhaps the greatest memory.
There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes!
That wasn't in a championship game. It was an East Regional final, but tough to find perhaps a moment in college basketball that surpasses Christian Leitner's shot in overtime that gave the Blue Devils the 104-103 win over Kentucky.
Jimmy Calhoun would argue with you. He'd say, how about the one that beat me and prevented me from going to a Final Four? Leitner certainly one of the great collegiate players of all time.
And that was one of the great performances of all time. 10 for 10 from the field for Leitner in that game. 10 out of 10 from the line. He had 31 points. Duke went on to the Final Four. St. John's is on the run right now. They've run off 6 straight points.
Some job by Thornton coming from behind on the steal. That's very difficult to do without picking up a foul. Nice move.
Brand's back in with 2 fouls, playing against Artest, who has 2, and Brand blocked Artest's shot.
Boy, Duke got caught in some bad matchups for them there. They don't want it. Brand picking up his 3rd foul.
Battier scores from Brand.
Surprised, to be quite honest with you, that Brand's back in this ball game right now. Duke has big men that they can substitute.
Up shot, Barkley. got the roll. Well, as soon as Brand went out with that second foul, St. John's went on that 6-0 run.
And you know who's guarding now, even though the St. John's is in a full court zone pressure, and they're going to go back into the zone to probably try to hide. Let's see if they do stay in the zone situation here. Yeah, they stay in the zone. That's going to protect Artest, who's down a little in the middle.
You can't leave Langdon open for three, though. That's the problem when you play zone against Duke.
That's exactly a good point, Sean, because, and that's what Mike Jarvis yesterday in practice said, and it was really a great point he made to his team. He said, guys, you got to believe in me. When I tell you to go to zone, they're probably going to crack us, but we've got to be patient. A great coaching point in practice. And, of course, what happens, Langdon comes out and hits the three.
And his players do believe in him very quickly.
Oh, without question.
Jarvis has won over his team. Reggie Jesse rattled one home. The sophomore from Queensbridge, New York, has 5 points.
Let's see if Duke goes over the top of this zone pressure, and here it is. Now they want to attack inside to Brand.
Farewell might have gotten away with a carry. Then Brand scored from right underneath the bucket. He has 10.
Very nice move by the senior Langdon to recognize the zone press, go over the top of it, and then Brand becomes a weapon on a 2-on-1 situation.
Brand nearly a double-double here in the first half. He has 10 points and 8 rebounds. And Barkley missed, and Postel pushed off on the rebound.
Well, you know, there was a case where Postel might have just got a soft touch. I think Carrawell faked him out a little bit, and the official just assumed that that must have been a big push. Mike Jarvis can't believe it.
Officials have been a little quick with the whistle in this first half, which is surprising in a game of this magnitude.
Yeah, I think that was merely a touch foul, and Mike Jarvis very upset with it. I don't blame him.
For all the late breaking news in college basketball, plus updated scores and stats, go to cbs.sportsline.com or on America Online at keyword CBS Sportsline. Carrawell 1-1. He missed the front end, and Bootsy Thornton rebounded.
Duke, an outstanding foul shooting team, not hitting them all today. He's shooting 74% from the line this year, which is excellent for team free throw shooting.
It's 11th in the nation at the start of the week. Artest lost the handle along the end line. Duke 37, St. John's 29. Team in the nation, Duke has an 8-point lead over St. John's.
Here we have last year, and showing Duke how they're going to collapse on Nazir Muhammad from Kentucky, preventing him from scoring inside. But remember what happened in this ball game. Kentucky was way down. This might have worked here, but it allowed the perimeter to be open. And what happened later in the game, the likes of Shepard and Paget wore him out from the outside.
Getty missed a shot, but the ball got tipped back out to him. Now Carrawell along for the dunk.
3 times we've had a game in this game. St. John's has forgotten where their men are. 3 times Duke has had a layup.
Duke leads by 10. Blue Devils once have an 11-point lead. Thornton a step back 3.
St. John's probably has as good a passing group of players all over. Now, again, they don't have a postman in the ball game, playing awful small. Mike Krzyzewski, I think, did a very wise thing getting Brand out of there. You don't want him to pick up that 3rd foul with 2 minutes to go. Now, will Margetti take Artest? Might not be a bad idea to let Margetti take Artest on the drive, see if they could pick up another foul on him.
Mike Jarvis got out of that zone very quickly after Langdon buried a 3 against it. And an offensive foul called by Curtis Shaw as Avery used the free arm to try to get past Barkley. Coming up on Pennzoil at the half, Bonnie Bernstein will get you caught up on all the scores and highlights. That's all coming up on Pennzoil at the half. The foul on Avery is first. LeVar Postel to the St. John's bench.
We saw Mike Krzyzewski sitting on that bench, very quiet the other night at Clemson. He wasn't able to go with the team. His shoulder giving him a lot of problems. Everybody knows he's going to have a hip surgery in April. Good shot by St. John's coming back right before the half.
And then Jesse called for the bump along the sideline. Mike Krzyzewski had a very scary episode early last week. He started to have numbness down his left arm from his shoulder right down the arm. And he went to be evaluated. They determined that he had a pinched nerve in his neck. And it's related to the left hip problem. He'll have the left hip replaced on April 5th. 4 times the ACC Coach of the Year, Mike Krzyzewski, one of the great coaches, I think you can say it now, in the history of the game when you figure there are only 2 coaches with more NCAA tournament wins than Mike.
Absolutely. You know, he went from being one of the great young coaches to now, without question, certainly one of the great coaches, not only in the game today, but certainly is one of those guys setting the pace for history.
Only Dean Smith and John Wooden have more NCAA tournament wins. Thornton with the crowd roaring missed the 3. Johnny's right back in it, and here they come again, 4 on 3.
There was that again, a freshman mistake by Maggette.
Couple of chances here for St. John's to inch closer, and Richardson was fouled after the 3-point miss by Artest. Maggette hit him from behind. The first on Maggette and the 9th team foul.
See, he is so used to having more quickness and speed than the people that he plays against, that he tries to put it on the floor and go by. As St. John's is extremely quick and very good at coming from behind with the steal.
And now Mike Jarvis is going to get Artest out for the final minute to avoid his picking up his 3rd personal foul. Here's Richardson at the line with 3 points today. Right into the 1-on-1, another big miss. St. John's is down 4, but that's 2 empty trips with a chance to get closer.
Avery's calling it for himself on a high screen here, but Barkley's been able to stay with him so far today.
Avery charged again.
Yeah, Barkley is really getting into Avery's mind. Avery has got to settle down, let the game come to him a little bit. He probably has heard about what a hot shot this freshman is from St. John's in the backcourt, and he is a hot shot. And Avery not having a real good first half. Very unusual for him compared to the way he's been playing this year.
Duke with 14 turnovers already today. That's what they average per game for the season coming in. 2 fouls on Avery. Brand has 2, and he's on the bench.
Talking about Avery, he's had 8 3-pointers in a game this year and 11 assists twice in a game this year. So he has the ability to put up big numbers, but he's having his hands full with this freshman.
As you can see, St. John's can just about take the last shot of the half. Thornton hits it with 4.
Great comeback by St. John's.
Avery never got a shot off. St. John's was down 10 just a moment ago, but they head to the locker room fired up, now down by 2. The end of the first half, the score, Duke 39 and St. John's 37. Bonnie Bernstein is along with Pennzoil at the half. Right after this message and a word from your local station.
Channel 4 is sponsored by Oldsmobile and your local Oldsmobile dealers. Nicorette Gum. You can do it. Nicorette can help. And by Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar. You belong at Applebee's.
It was a very entertaining first half here at Madison Square Garden, and Duke has a 2-point lead over St. John's. And Billy, it's time for that old cliche. If you're Mike Jarvis, you have to be kind of happy to be down by only 2 in the first half.
Well, I think that his team showed an awful lot of guts coming back there in that first half. It looked like Duke had that working margin. Artest is in some foul trouble. They pulled back very well. I think some of the keys to the ball game certainly are Avery's play in the first half for Duke was 7 turnovers as the backcourt leader. I think Barkley got in his head early and often in that ball game.
Halftime stats brought to you by DiGiorno. Bootsy Thornton working on another big game. He's been in double figures in 11 straight games coming in, so this makes it 12. And in the last 6 games, he scored at least 17 points. He has a great chance to make that 7 straight games with at least 17 points. 6 out of 11 was Thornton in the first half. Elton Brand dominated early inside, then he picked up his 2nd foul, and that's when St. John's got back in the game.
They did, and he's the force to start the second half. If you were in that Duke locker room, I guarantee you there were a couple of things they focused on. One is for Avery to get his head into the ball game and let the game come to him somewhat. The second is to make Brand a real force to start this second half, to put a lot of pressure on Richardson and Artest. The other thing is that you'd have to warn your players, if you're Duke, that St. John's great quickness coming from behind from those steals, don't think you're open when it appears that you are. For St. John's, I think it's just more of the same. Working hard, keeping Thornton open. They have to be very happy with that comeback. And there's what I said was going to happen. Right to Brand down in low early.
And he missed his first shot of the half, ripped away by Ron Artest. This is Barkley. It's Barkley And Thornton with Artest, Richardson, and Jesse, the same five that started the game for St. John's. Thornton for three, and the lead for the Red Storm.
Thornton named Bootsy after Bootsy Collins. Is that a singer you're familiar with? That's who his mom named him after, a singer named Bootsy Collins. We'll have to do some research on that. But he is off to an excellent start here.
Thornton's given name at birth Marvis, but he much prefers Bootsy. And there's Battier driving inside.
And you see that Artest on him can't afford to go ahead and chop down and try to even block on it. So smart play by Artest, even though he was beaten.
Shane Battier now has 4. He's a sophomore from Birmingham, Michigan. Barkley, nice back cut, and Artest found him.
It's a nightmare game for Avery. I like Barkley's demeanor on the court. You know, he never shows any emotion, glides around there. He's got great quickness. And boy, Duke has got one game plan here. Get that ball down inside, put Richardson in trouble. Richardson had a very good first half, and I'm not talking about statistically, but to be able to play at that tempo and stick with Brand as he did, it's a big aid to St. John's.
A little too anxious to prove it at the offensive end, however, and Richardson traveled. The 8th turnover committed by St. John.
Here we'll see Elton Brand look at the post-up position, those wide arms and wide body. Richardson just having no ability whatsoever to stay with him. They're going to have to double down to help out a little bit. Double down on Battier's man and with Carrawell's man. You can't afford to do it with Avery or Trajan Langdon.
Brand, he traveled.
Well, I think that's a push.
Yes, he did.
Push on Richardson, and Duke is going to go right to the power man inside. And we see right here, Brand has that ability to put the ball on the floor. Richardson does a pretty good job moving his feet, but Brand just too strong for him.
2 personals now on Albert Richardson. And Jesse almost intercepted the inbound pass. 2 minutes played, second half. Duke by 1.
Telegraph pass by Carroll. You've got to keep that ball in front of your chest, not over your head until you're ready to make the delivery. There he puts it over his head again. Makes it much easier to block. The only throw you can have is over the top.
Battier out to the midcourt line. He's guarded tightly by Artest, who needs to be careful.
Good man-to-man pressure here by St. John's.
And a whistle underneath as Langdon.
Oh, Richardson, another cheap foul inside, just trying to hold position on Brand. We'll see it again, and here's where St. John's really missed Ty Grant. There's just Richardson, you know, he's just not strong enough, and yet he's trying to fight over the top. Brand again.
That's the right place to go.
Now, if you're Mike Jarvis, where do you go? I mean, you're going to have to get some minutes from somebody off the bench with size. You can't afford to put Artest down there, and Brand, he's got 2 fouls on him, and you've got to save him offensively.
Artest thought that Barkley was heading to the back door, but he was not.
Show it inside. Here is Elton Brand again, getting position, and there is that strength. How about going zone if you're Mike Jarvis? About the only thing you can do is take a chance that maybe Langdon isn't hot today.
At least try to react to him more quickly when he goes to tee up a 3-point try. Brand, a tough shot.
Good blocking out by Artest on Battier, but again, Brand gets the ball in good working position.
If you joined us late, St. John's playing without its leading rebounder and most physical force inside, Tyrone Grant, who broke his wrist in the game earlier this month against Seton Hall. He's out at least until early February. Blocked from behind by Carrawell. The Jesse shot. Richardson's follow wouldn't go.
Great hustle by Richardson.
Artest open for 3.
Richardson again in the middle of the pack.
And he might have committed a foul.
I think this one will be on Thornton. They're just giving up too many inches there.
2 fouls on Bootsy Thornton now.
Tell you, a lot of energy being expended by both of these teams, and for Duke with the deeper bench, it plays in their advantage here. Try to wear the other club down. Remember, St. John's had a big lead on Purdue in the tournament earlier this year. We're not able to hang on, and they do go zone.
Carrawell missed the 3. Langdon the rebound. Avery for 3.
And here's where yesterday's great message by Mike Jarvis. Have confidence and patience and stick with the game plan. But Duke is so tough if you go zone, hitting that ball outside.
Miscommunication again. Barkley threw it right to Langdon.
Nice job by Trajan Langdon to protect the ball.
St. John could use a timeout. They'll get the TV timeout on the next whistle, but Mike Jarvis isn't going to wait for it. It's a 20-second timeout called by Coach Jarvis. He has his son, Mike II, on the staff, and it was Mike who walked over and said, "Dad, I think we need a timeout here," and Dad agreed. Tonight on CBS, legendary outlaws come out of retirement to help a son avenge his father's murder. Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and Travis Tritt star in the CBS Sunday movie Outlaw Justice tonight on CBS.
You know, Sean, I'm really enjoying this month of Michael Jordan's retirement as you run into people and they tell all kinds of stories about Jordan. Mike Jarvis told me one yesterday. He said, "You remember the McDonald's All-American game in Wichita, Billy?" And I said, "Yeah, Mike, I was there at that game." He said, "You know, I coached Michael Jordan in that game," and he's absolutely right. He coached Michael Jordan, wasn't the MVP in the game, but Mike said he thought he would be a pretty good player before he finished up. Was he right, huh?
Of course, Mike Jarvis first made a name for himself as a high school coach in Cambridge, Massachusetts at Ringen Latin when he coached Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing was there that day, but ineligible to play because he had played in 2 previous All-Star games.
Artest took it away from Battier. Count the bucket. A chance for 3 for Ron Artest.
Now, could that have been a huge turnaround play? Artest could have picked up the foul on the charge. Battier, who loves to draw the charges, had pretty good position. But instead, it's Artest with 2 and a chance for the 3. Pretty close call there. Could have been a huge turnaround. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it was a call.
You do? I think it was a charge. Yep. I think he gained it. I think a foul is when one or the other player gains advantage by his contact. And there's no question, by making the contact, Artest gained the advantage there.
Foul on Battier was his first, and the first team foul against Duke here in the second half. Timeout. 15:39 remaining in New York City.
A gold medalist on both the '84 and '92 men's basketball teams. Visa will donate $1,000 to each of these universities and $1,000 to the U.S. Olympic team for their efforts in the development of our future Olympians.
2 legendary outlaws come out of retirement to help a son avenge his...
On the St. John's bench, there's Tyrone Grant with the broken wrist, out at least until early February. Mike Jarvis says we'll definitely get him back. He really sensed they could use him today.
Oh, that'll be a big boost because everybody else has had to step up. And here's Mickey Krzyzewski's, Mike's wife, who, remember back in the fall of '94 when Mike had that back surgery, he coached the team for the beginning of that season, had a winning record when he finally stepped aside and took that hiatus. But it was because of Mickey Krzyzewski. She said he is not going to coach, or we're going to have a little problem in his family. And really, Mike will go back, as we mentioned earlier, and have that operation in April for the hip. But that was a back surgery.
We saw Bernie Williams, the Yankee star, as well. That's interesting. Duke that year was 9-3 when Mike Krzyzewski left. They finished the year 13-18. There's a 3 from Avery. Interesting that Duke does not count the 13-18 against Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to have to over the period of time, whether there's no precedent that I know of for that particular move. And there's the charging foul. Artest picks up the 3rd. Remember how important I said that was on the earlier play. He makes the good crossover dribble here, beats his man, but there is Trajan Langdon stepping in. No question about the call.
Good call. The 3rd against Artest, and double jeopardy for St. John's because they waved off the goal as well.
But he's going to have to stay out here now. St. John's has gone 3 times into the zone, and all 3 times Duke has hit the outside shot. So they go back to man-to-man.
You were about to make a point about the precedent about coaching records.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, if we have other situations where guys were sick or injured and out, and maybe they had good seasons and they counted the game. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. That was a decision Duke made, and I guess that it's their decision and theirs only to make.
Pete Cadet obviously took over. He's no longer on the staff, but it is interesting. I mean, I wonder, you know, if they went 28-3 would they have counted on Coach K's record if he was still technically in charge of the program. And you wonder how much better the record would have been, if at all, had he coached.
There's that strength by Brand. Two-handed grab.
It's 5 team fouls already as Jesse picks up his 3rd personal. St. John's in trouble, down 10 again. They did come back from an 11-point first half deficit to take a brief lead here in the second half, but now they're in double digits again.
Smart play by Trajan Langdon to go ahead and realize he was the point guard, went and let that ball go into the backcourt, which is not a backcourt violation. A heady 5th-year senior. Remember, he, because of the injury to his knee, he sat out a year.
Trajan Langdon spent 3 summers playing baseball in the San Diego Padres organization. Some think he hurt his knee actually during his minor league baseball career. He didn't play baseball this past summer, did represent the United States on the World Championships team in Greece. The team who won the bronze medal. Count the basket, a chance for a 3-point play as Barkley will go to the line, and Avery has committed his 3rd foul.
Barkley having an outstanding game, plays well within himself. And he's giving the more experienced Avery a little lesson out here today to how to let the game just flow as opposed to trying to force it.
Maggette back in for Carawell. And here's Barkley, one of the most highly recruited players in the country, coming out of Maine Central Institute last year, where he averaged 27 points and 8 assists a game. Before that, he played at Christ the King here in New York City and played on 2 city championship teams his freshman and sophomore years for Bob Oliva.
That was good defense by Thornton, good offense by Trajan Langdon. Thornton comes out the winner on that.
The pull-up, too strong from Jesse. James had the rebound and lost it, and Postell got drilled, and he'll go to the line for 2.
These are 2 teams that don't mind battling. St. John's, although giving up a lot of size, really fights inside. Postell with an excellent offensive rebound and putback. Terrific job inside.
Yes,
going up with the 2 hands.
Maggette called for his 2nd foul, the team's 3rd, and here's Postell.
21 points, 16.5 against Rutgers. I'll tell you, every kid on this St. John's team is capable of having kind of a monster game against you, you know, so they really don't have any weaknesses. Probably you would say Richardson offensively not capable of giving them what Grant could, certainly, but this team can hurt you in a lot of different ways. Tough team to play against.
And every time Duke gets a little bit of a margin, St. John's answers, and Duke had to use a timeout.
Now the full court pressure zone-wise is working against Duke. It's just zone half court that's hurting them.
The lead was 10 moments ago, but St. John's has scored 5 unanswered points. Monday on CBS. After Raymond embarrasses his wife in public, you better watch out, because you won't believe what Deborah's going to do to pay him back. Don't miss Everybody Loves Raymond Monday at 9, 8 Central right here on CBS.
Sean, you know, earlier we had Sam Cassell and sitting there, a lot of these guys in there with who they're going to root for. I'm going to give you a guy that has a hard time figuring out who to root for today. A Big East ACC player from the past. Henry Hyde, very important guy in the impeachment proceedings. He was a listen to this one now. He played for Georgetown in the national championship final against Wyoming in '44. He also played for Duke University while he was in the Navy ensign program during the Second World War. Powerful rebounder, Henry Hyde.
Well,
Duke University, Georgetown.
Connection to Duke, and not necessarily directly to St. John's.
Georgetown's a Big East.
Yes,
Big
they
East.
are. But let me ask you this: if you're a Syracuse fan, for instance, do you cheer for Georgetown when they're not?
I would think so. If you're a Big East person, I think you'd cheer for Big East people.
Except when they play your team?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
I suppose you would. You cheer for your league to do well, because it adds to the argument that your league's good and your fellow teams fare well. Barkley was just called for his first foul. Barkley had an amazing performance Wednesday night against Providence, a team that presses quite a bit. No turnovers in that game against the Friars. They throttled Providence.
Now there's Avery again. Not a good judgment. You're only up 5 points. St. John's playing well. You don't go ahead and... is that not a charge?
It was a block called against Langdon. It sounded like one of those whistles, Billy, where maybe the official was anticipating a little bit more contact than there actually was.
Well, a good call because Avery had... Trajan Langdon did not have good defensive position on that play. He stepped in under Postel, so good call.
Third personal sends Langdon to the bench, so the fouls are a factor now. Artest traveled.
Oh, a tough call for St. John's on that one because he had Brand up in the air.
I think it was a good call, though. I think once he got him up in the air, he just shuffled his feet a little bit at the free throw line. Mike Jarvis didn't like Larry Rose's whistle.
This press causing Duke some real problems.
McGetty fouled. Artest came to help Jesse, who was beaten, and Artest.
That's his 4th.
Yes, indeed. That's huge. He is their best player, leading scorer and second leading rebounder.
12 minutes now. He's got to come out now. Richardson's going to come in there for him. Plus, he got hit pretty hard. Took a real whack. He's kind of limping a little bit here, but he knows he's going to have to sit down. Now, is he going to come out on the whistle?
Richardson ready to check in for him. McGetty makes it a 6-point lead. Out goes Artest with 12:42 remaining.
Artest doesn't run into or have many guys that have his size and power that run into him, but McGetty is every bit that. Took a tough lick there.
First free throw made by Duke today. McGetty makes it 2 in a row. He was the player of the year in high school in Illinois last year. Worked at one of Michael Jordan's camps, and Michael gave him a hard time. Why didn't you go to North Carolina? Chose Duke instead of Jordan's beloved Tar Heels.
Postel won the ball inside, and Jesse really should have got it to him because Postel's got quickness on Battier.
Richardson couldn't finish from about 6 feet, and Battier ripped it away. Duke by 7 with Artest out of the game, perhaps a chance to pad the lead.
Brand wants it down the low post. Good help that time by Thornton from the weak side.
Richardson guiding Brand, and Richardson has 3 fouls. And they're quite physical underneath as the 3 comes up short. But Carrawell corralled his own rebound.
Now that's
McGetty did rather.
McGetty,
he was fouled.
Well, you have to assume that McGetty's going to follow his own shot, right? I mean, the guy is a very aggressive basketball player. You want him to take that outside shot, but you want to make sure you're blocking him out because he's so much more difficult to handle inside.
Now Richardson has 4, and Artest is on the bench with 4. And McGetty shoots 2 again.
Well, Mike Jarvis has got Donald Emanuel over there that he could bring in with a little bit of size. And he's probably going to have to go in that direction.
He hasn't played at all today. He has appeared in 18 of the 19 previous games with 10 starts, so Emanuel is a regular in the rotation, but not today. McGetty missed both, so it's still a 7-point lead for Duke. Barkley was fouled. He got away with a little shuffle step when he accepted the pass.
Yeah, but it was a very good technique by Barkley on that shuffle step because he had the dribble alive. He gained a lot of room on that going right by Avery.
So the fouls of the story right now is Avery just picked up his 4th. So Artest is on the bench with 4. Richardson playing with 4 for SJU. And now Avery of Duke has committed his 4th. And Langdon's going to come back in with 3.
And one of the things a lot of people wondered about this Duke team is it's really not deep in the traditional sense of backcourt players. But what they do have are a lot of swing players like Carrawell, like Battier, that can handle the ball in the open court. So it really takes away your ability just to put pressure on what would be traditional guards.
A lot of depth in terms of size. Would have had even more had Mike Chappell not transferred to Michigan State. He had a fine freshman year last year, averaging better than 7 points per game for Duke. St. John's down by 5 in the second half. Sean McDonough with Billy Packard back at sold-out Madison Square Garden. Nearly midway through the second half, Duke leads by 5. Foul difficulty on each side. Avery, Artest, and Richardson all with 4 fouls. Mike Jarvis put Artest on the bench with 12:42 remaining.
Well, obviously, that is something that favors Duke highly because they have some things that they can do and work around Avery. But there's not a lot that St. John's can do working around Artest and Richardson. Richardson back in the ball game now, and one of the things that could help a little bit now, you could think about going zone a little bit now because primarily you've only got Trajan Langdon as the outside shooter with Avery on the bench.
Maggette, good cut. He was fouled on his way down the side of the lane.
As strong as Postel is, he's not a match for Maggette.
Monday on CBS, it's an all-new Cosby, followed by Kevin James and Jerry Stiller in The King of Queens. And how will Raymond's wife get even after he embarrasses her in public on Everybody Loves Raymond, followed by an all-new Becker starring Ted Danson, and an all-new LA Doctors with Ken Olin's wife, Trisha Wettig, in a special guest appearance Monday on CBS. Maggette hit the first free throw. Duke has not had a good day at the line today.
Well, the reason for it is they haven't had traditionally on the line their great free throw shooters in the backcourt, Trajan Langdon and William Avery.
Seven-point lead for Duke. 4 out of 8 from the free throw line today. On the corner, that's a 3 for Bootsy Thornton.
Tough guy to match up, and he's 6'4", outside or inside. There goes Maggette again. They just can't handle him. He's just so quick, so athletic. Interesting matchup, showing you how versatile a defensive player Carrawell is. He is now guarding Barkley. I mean, he has taken on the likes this year of Steve Francis down there at Maryland. He can take on a big guy. He can take. He did an excellent job. Now against a small guard, he's just, it's amazing how he can balance off and take all different kinds of players.
Reggie Jesse committed his 4th foul. So yet another St. John's player on the verge of extinction. St. John's essentially today has played 6 men. The 7th player, Colin Charles, played just 2 minutes in the first half. And a foul as Thornton tried to go on the curl, and Battier and Langdon reached in, and Langdon got called for the 4th foul. So now he has 4.
Now Duke has got to start thinking here. Mike Krzyzewski's got to really start. You got 10 minutes to go. You've got Trajan Langdon with 4, William Avery with 4. And I said that they're not deep at the traditional guard position. They don't have any replacements at the traditional guard position.
And Mike Krzyzewski used the timeout to talk it over. Powell's the story of the moment.
He hits just enough from the outside with those threes to force a man to play him tight, and then he just busts by on the curl. Terrific job.
Bootsy is 22, averaging 15 a game, but that average has been coming up. And this free throw would have made it a 2-point game. Postel kept it alive. Got deflected back to Jesse. He went into the backcourt again.
Now it's James on Thornton, Carrawell on Barkley. What they're trying to do is to save Avery, who's over here on Jesse. Jesse ought to post up on him. Oh, yes! Thornton is just lighting him up. National Junior College Player of the Year. Sat out last year at St. John's, but having quite a day here.
And 3 by Bootsy Thornton tied the game at 60 midway through the second half. This battle of 2 versus 9. Everything you could hope for, and Nick James quiets the crowd with a 3.
Points coming from funny places there. Brand wanted that ball in the low post. And what's Duke? Did Duke go to his zone?
Thornton feels it. Misses it that time. Avery all alone on the weak side for the rebound.
Unusual defense by Duke that time is really man-to-man, but Brand not playing on Richardson.
Brand.
Oh, such a tough player from Peekskill. Home with the New York Governor.
Governor George Pataki.
Right. Who was a pretty fair player himself there in Peekskill.
His daughter went to high school with Elton Brand. Governor Pataki would show up at the Peekskill games when Elton was playing there, and they had an outstanding team, as you might expect, while Brand played for Peekskill High.
What hustle? There's Postel. I'm telling you, this is a team that doesn't want to be denied. And again, without their leading rebounder and now without their leading player on the bench with fouls, they're really doing the job.
Looked from here that it was Postel, but they credited that bucket to Thornton. He now has 27 points. James short with a three.
Surprisingly, right now, Mike Krzyzewski trying to steal some minutes before he gets Trajan Langdon back in the game, getting shots from strange places. I thought that Postel hit this ball. I think it should have been Postel's basket. But in any case, they all count for their team.
And St. John's has been without Artest now for exactly 4 minutes, and they're hanging right in there with Duke. Artest on the bench with 4. Richardson playing with 4, as is Jesse.
And what Battier wants to do is get the ball to Elton Brand. And there it is.
Working on Richardson. He passed off to James, and he was fouled by Thornton before the shot.
Good move by Battier to understand what the objective was on the play. Whereas James is looking to take shots, Battier understands everything's got to start inside with Brand first. Something will happen off of that.
3 fouls now on Thornton. 11 team fouls against St. John's here in the second half. The officials have been calling this closely throughout. Here's Nate James at the line with 7 points. Out of St. John's at Prospect Hall High School. They played for Coach Stu Vetter. They have a lot of great players there over there. Jason Capel, who's now at North Carolina, although out with mononucleosis. Randolph Childress, X-ray hip, Cameron Dollar, George Lynch, Serge Zwicker, Dennis Scott, all played at St. John's at Prospect Hall.
You know, you can look up at the scoreboard, 8:31 to go. The game's in the 60s. Duke's the leading scoring team in the country with the biggest margin of victory also. And it's been played at St. John's pace. They were able to go ahead and take away that full court up and down running that took place early in the ball game and got it to play their style.
Out of bounds, last touch by St. John's. Duke is averaging 94.5 points per game, and their average margin of victory this year is 27 points to lead the nation. In the ACC, when they've gone 7-0, they've won by an average of 26 points.
They've had some real blowouts there in the league that's top heavy this year.
Postel missed a 3. It's Duke by 5 with the ball after the Brand rebound, his 10th, and that's a double-double for Elton Brand, his 8th of the year.
Avery should wait on Brand again and get the ball down in the low post. But Richardson with 4 fouls, doing everything he can to keep the ball away. Good steal
by Postel. Ahead to Thornton, one-on-one. He was fouled by Carrawell. Well, tough act to follow in game 2 of our triple header, but South Carolina and Syracuse will try. Others will see Missouri and Kansas. A great rivalry. Then it's out to the Big Ten. Jason Klein and Mateen Cleaves leading Michigan State. The Spartans are on a roll. They'll take on Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers, led by A.J. Guyton. That's later today, 4 Eastern time in the Big Ten. Michigan State right now alone atop the Big Ten.
But everybody in that league looking at Columbus, Ohio. What in the world is going on there with Ohio State? Just on a tremendous tear with 3 huge wins. That league by far the deepest quality teams in the country. And probably set all kinds of records this year in the total teams in the NCAA tournament. I think they could go 8 deep in that league.
How quickly Jim O'Brien has turned that program around
with a Big East player.
Scoonie Penn brought him with him from Boston College. 29 points for Bootsy Thornton.
Now, how long can Mike Jarvis go with Ron Artest on the bench? You know, at the 6-minute mark, he's got to be thinking about it. Richardson with 4. They can't get the ball to Brand.
James fortunate to get the whistle there as he lowered his shoulder and just burrowed his way into traffic.
Mike Krzyzewski trying to steal some minutes with Trajan Langdon on the bench. Both of these coaches having to have a mind game going.
Well, that's 4 fouls now on LeVar Postel. So just about everybody in the building, including Billy Packer, has 4 fouls. Here's James at the line. He has 9 points, well above his average of 4.7 per game. Let's check out the CBS Sportsline stat of the game. For complete college basketball coverage, go to cbs.sportsline.com. Not a surprise there, given that St. John's has essentially played this game with 6 players. 2 minutes from Colin Charles, the 7th player, and that's it. Although Duke hasn't gone as deep as it usually does. They've used 8 players today.
And Duke, again, not getting their premier free throw shooters on the line today. Playing with guys that are their weaker free throw shooters, and they're not having the kind of game they normally have from the line.
7 out of 16 are the Blue Devils, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the nation coming in.
Thornton trying to get loose on the baseline.
And the rebound went over his head off the Postel miss. A career high for Thornton today, 29 points. And at the other end, Carrawell banks it in.
Pretty versatile player to get a rebound on one end, take it court to court.
Barkley, blocking call along the baseline. Battier trying to draw yet another charge. Instead, he was called for the foul.
Now, if you're Barkley, what you want to do in a game like this, there's really nothing here. You want to occupy a little bit more clock. Battier did get over there. You want to occupy a little bit more clock and try to save some time for your team to get Artest on the floor. So that would have been good to pull that one back out.
2 fouls on Battier.
Barkley might have hurt his wrist or his hand on that play as well.
Battier goes out now. Maggette back in. 9 team fouls, so not yet the double bonus. That'll happen on the next Duke foul. Barkley with 12 points today. And he front rimmed the first of a 1-on-1. Richardson blocked by Brand.
Brand and Maggette kind of sandwiched him there.
Good call right in front of us. Carrawell doesn't like it, but that looked like the right call by Larry Rose.
Yep.
It was just simply a matter of Carrawell losing the dribble over the sideline.
Thornton got a little touch, but Carrawell hit it last. A great piece of officiating.
18 Duke turnovers. Duke by 5. 6.5 minutes left at Madison Square Garden.
Barkley being patient, being guarded by a much taller man now.
Postel swatted by Brand. 3 blocks by Brand, 2 of them on successive St. John's trips.
He almost blocked this with his armpit. Watch this. Boom. Get that out of here.
Postel got shut off by Maggette. Richardson's had a tough time scoring today, and that shot's way off. You think it's about time to put Artest back in?
Well, I think that at a 5-minute mark, Mike Jarvis has got to go and bring him back in the game. And for Mike Krzyzewski, you leave Trajan Langdon on the bench as long as you've got the lead. You want him in the game at the end so you can have him on the free throw line if necessary. So Mike Krzyzewski doesn't have to make the same tough move that Mike Jarvis has to make.
Brand was triple teamed. That left James open, but he missed the 3.
See, that normally would be Trajan Langdon out there for the 3. They're much easier to defend.
Jesse stripped by James. Then Brand came flying over the top of the pile and committed a foul. His 3rd. And that's the double bonus now. 10 team fouls on Duke here in the second half.
But even though Jesse missed, how about how aggressively he went at that hoop? This is surprising. Trajan Langdon's going in before Artest. Artest is arguing on the sidelines. I won't say arguing. He's pleading his case on the sidelines, trying to get back in this game. Here we see Jesse flying in there, and he loses handle on the ball.
Now Thornton adding to his best day as a college player. 30 points. Artest still on the bench. He's been there for more than 7 minutes of game action now, but his mates are keeping the Red Storm in it. Most notably Thornton, who's been just about a one-man show here in the second half.
I'd say in the next 30 seconds we'll see Artest in this ballgame. under the 5-minute mark.
Duke by 3.
Langdon back in there now with Avery.
Along with Carrawell, Brand, and McGetty.
Oh, I think that was a charge, but he's going to get the call.
Oh, my goodness. And that's on Thornton. Wow.
You're going to see Trajan Langdon using his elbow here, but he's going to get the call. There's the elbow and the push in. Watch this right here. He'll push in with his elbow.
Oh, boy.
Thornton moving and has the right to that position. Big break for Duke there.
That's a huge call. Not only is Langdon still in the game, he would have fouled out, but now Thornton has his 4th foul, and Langdon pads the lead. It goes to 4.
Oh, and this is a free throw.
And then McGetty. That might be the makeup call right there on the rebounding action, as McGetty called for a little shove underneath.
Well, that's very strange, too. You have Duke having the man they want on the free throw line. Instead of getting one on their side, they end up putting St. John's on the line.
He's the best free throw shooter in the history of the ACC. Trajan Langdon with a career shooting percentage of 87.5, just better than Charlie Davis, who played at Wake Forest back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Charlie Davis,
a career percentage of 87.3.
Charlie Davis, a young man from right here in New York City, played at Brooklyn Tech. Great pure shooter.
Now Postel with his team down by 4. 5:17 remaining. Battier back in. McGetty goes out.
So you have Duke with their original starting lineup on the floor. Mike Jarvis just hanging in there with Artest, not getting him ready to come back in the game. Now they're rubbing him down on his leg.
Postel, a little bit of a pump fake there. Richardson went flying in the lane, but it looked like Brand helped to shove him into the lane. Both coaches are up off the bench wondering what this is all about.
Well, the official's probably going to do the best thing in the fact that he doesn't call anything and lets Postel go back to the line.
It has to be something, doesn't it?
Well, you just say, hey, you know.
And they called fouls all day long, an amazing number of fouls. Something clearly happened.
Well, you'd have penalized either team on that one, so maybe the fairest thing to do is not penalize either one and get the free throw.
We're going to pretend that didn't happen. It was a mulligan. Postel hit 2. It's a 2-point lead for Duke.
Remember the last time Duke played in here, it was Andre Patterson in Indiana that beat them in the NIT preseason.
Avery missed a runner. Brand another rebound. He's had a relatively quiet half. Richardson's done a good job. He held his ground there. There's Battier over the back, but Postel's called for the foul.
Yeah, he got underneath him and wedged him on out of there.
And that's 5 on Postel. So finally, a victim to foul difficulty. So many players walking the tightrope with 4. But now Postel leaves with 5. That's 14 team fouls in this half against St. John's. Postel had 6 points today.
Artest up and wanting to get into this basketball game.
Why not? It's under 5 minutes to go. Postel leaves to a nice hand. He was a starter last year, very valuable 6th man this year. When we talk about the expectations, people surprised by St. John's success. I'm a little bit surprised that that's the reaction, given that they won 22 games last year. They're adding Barkley, one of the top 5 high school players in the country, according to many of those recruiting publications. And they get Bootsy Thornton, one of the great junior college players in the country. Why wouldn't you expect to be good?
Counter that?
Yes.
Felipe Lopez, the 3rd all-time scorer in the history of the school. Zendon Hamilton, the number 5 all-time scorer, are gone.
Yes.
No, but I really think that Mike has done a terrific job. They've all bought into his program, and we're not looking at the last good St. John's team under him.
No.
I mean, I think you're looking for St. John's to have a big payday with Mike Jarvis.
I just think it should be remembered that Fran Fraschilla really helped get this thing turned around. 22 wins last year, getting them back in the NCAA tournament, and recruited and put together the nucleus of this team.
I would agree.
We left after last year. Dismissal turned philosophical differences by St. John's University. Battier made a free throw to put the lead back up to 3. He has 5 points.
And it's Battier on Artest. Carrawell stays out on Barkley. That puts Trajan Langdon came out of the ball game, trying to save him to the end. So it's James on Thornton.
4.5 minutes to go. Jesse. Boy, you wish they'd just put the whistle in the pocket. Every little drive to the basket when there's any kind of a brush results in a foul.
Smart play, though, by St. John, saying, okay, where's our best matchup to post up? Avery out of position guarding Jesse, and that's because of the foul trouble Duke has.
Avery's fouled out. He's the first to succumb for Duke. He leaves with...
That was smart play by St. John's. Get him out of there. It's got to be Trajan Langdon back in here now. I don't think Duke realized he's got 5.
He leaves with 11 points. That's 12 team fouls on Duke in this half. And there's still 4 minutes and 27 seconds to go. There's 26 team fouls called, 26 fouls called in this half in just over 15 minutes. As you watch this game, would you say this has been an overly physical game?
Oh, I think it's a very physical game, and I'll tell you why. Because you've got St. John's is very much like Cincinnati. They're obviously not as big, but they come at you with a lot of team quickness. Tough matchups. So this is the kind of game where they put a lot of pressure on the officials coming at you. And Duke is a kind of club that can withstand that fairly well, too. I think right now, if you're St. John's, whoever Trajan Langdon is guarding, you've got to go ahead and put the ball in that guy's hands. Try to get
missed both free throws. It's still a 3-point lead for Duke.
You want to try to get Trajan Langdon out of the game. If you're Duke, obviously you want to keep him in the game. St. John's showing a little zone defense here, trying to protect Avery. Tremendous match of wits going on here between these two coaches.
And it's a foul shooting contest that favors Duke. Carroll hits the runner from the free throw line.
Now, 2-3 zone. He just penetrated right down the middle. Nobody played the man with the ball. Cardinals sing when you're in the zone. 10
points for Carwell out of Cardinal Ritter High School in St. Louis, the same school that produced Julian Winfield of Renton, Missouri, and Jahidi White of Georgetown, among others. Artest had it rejected by Brand, and he looks to run the floor.
Well, I'm surprised. St. John's had things set up for Jesse coming on the baseline to drive on Trajan Langdon. Didn't try it. Great job by Brand inside by Duke. St. John stayed zone one time and said, you know, we cannot stay in it. They go back to man-to-man.
Farewell doing the bulk of the ball, handling the absence of Avery. Langdon missed a 3. Battier tipped it.
Oh, great play.
Artest poked it away from Farewell and went in for the dunks.
How quick is he? Battier made a smart play. He thought on the tap out. Farewell just stood flat-footed. Artest ran right on by him.
Farewell.
Not just a defensive stopper, huh?
I should say not. 12 for Carwell. We talked earlier about this being the most anticipated college basketball game in New York City in years, and it's lived up to that advanced billing. These two teams have gone at it all afternoon in a very entertaining game, still with 2:45 to go. Duke, number 2 in the nation, leads by 5. With 2:45 remaining, Duke leads by 5. The fouls, the story of the game, particularly here in the second half. You see the second half foul numbers for the game. Each team has been whistled for 22 fouls. Duke has 2 timeouts remaining. St. John's 3, and the Red Storm has the arrow in its favor. There's Elton Brand's mom, Daisy, who's made the trip from Peekskill, about 40 miles away along the Hudson, to come down here to the city and watch son Elton.
He's a fine player. There's no question about that. Mike Krzyzewski sat him on the pine for a couple of games. Didn't let him start, just to say, hey, let's get focused back in what you got to do. Big shot. Thornton continues.
34 for Bootsy Thornton. Great play by Mike Jarvis right out of the timeout to get Thornton in position for a 3. They've gone away from him on recent possessions. He's the reason they're still in the game.
Here you're trying to get a situation to get the ball down into Brand. Who makes the entry pass?
Langdon with 4, guarded by Artest, who has 4. Shot clock at 10. Brand on Richardson, who has 4. Brand in traffic. The tip wouldn't go from James. Thornton calls a timeout as he's going out of bounds.
Brand almost had what he wanted there. Couldn't quite get the handle. Good hustle by Duke and by St. John's. Mike Jarvis is smiling.
A 20-second timeout tonight on CBS begins with 60 minutes. Was a Marine pilot hot dogging being a cowboy when his jet severed a cable on a ski slope in Italy, killing 20 people. His story, 60 Minutes tonight, followed by Touched by an Angel. Then Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, and Travis Tritt in the Sunday night movie Outlaw Justice, all tonight right here on CBS.
You know, Sean, I mentioned about Black Sunday back in 1979. It was Penn and St. John's with the two big upsets there. And, of course, then Penn eventually working their way to the Final Four, only to face Magic Johnson in what was kind of a devastating basketball game. But certainly it was a day that the people down in North Carolina will remember for many, many, many years.
Bootsy Thornton has hit 6 3-pointers today, career high. 34 points. He also has 10 rebounds, a double-double. St. John's with the ball, 2 to tie. 3 for the lead with under 2 minutes remaining. Steal. Battier couldn't control it along the end line.
But, you know, what a smart play by Thornton. Here he is with his biggest career day. Instead of taking the bad jump shot from the side, goes to look to hit inside to Artest, who has a better look. Gonna like that kid's attitude.
Curtis Shaw, one of the officials, over to the scorers table. They reset the shot clock, and they should not have. So they're going to take some time off the shot clock. They'll set it at 21 seconds. 1:55 left in regulation time. Number 2, Duke, in a battle with number 9, St. John.
Solid screen for Thornton coming over the top here, but he doesn't quite get there.
Trouble on the handoff. Out of bounds. Last touch by James.
He better be careful. You sure don't want to pick up a technical foul trying to show up the official on the sideline. Mike Krzyzewski very docile here today. You can tell that that shoulder and his pain is put him in a little different position than he normally is.
And he's barely moved off the bench, been almost emotionless in a very emotional game. Artest down the lane. He
Great hesitation dribble by Artest. He was looking for the jump shot first, and that solid screen gave him enough room to go down the lane. Here you see right here, he was looking for the jumper, hesitated, beat Brand on it, makes the left-handed put-up. A triple-double man from St. John's. By the way, Duke, with all of their storied history, and guys like Grant Hill and Art Heyman and Mullins and Leitner, never had a player with a triple-double.
Artest has given St. John's the lead. Their last lead was at 15 to 14.
Harrowell has been the big offensive threat here, but they still want to get that ball to Brand.
Actually, they led once here in the second half very early on, so that note was just passed along is not correct. But St. John's by 1:15 remaining. And Harrowell fouled on the pass off.
Fouled by Jesse. That's the call, Sean, back to the point that you made earlier, the call all day long that's been made. Because anytime a guy penetrates, the hand touch has been called.
Anytime.
Yeah. And so there was really never any flow on that particular kind of play here today.
So Jesse's fouled out. Now Mike Jarvis is in trouble. He's been trying to play with 6 men all day, but he's lost 2 of those 6 men. So the only other player who's seen action, the 7th man today, Colin Charles at guard, is going to come back in.
Well, one thing I will say, when these two teams hit the locker room, whoever wins or loses can honestly look at their coach and say they gave it their all physically.
Yes.
I mean, there might have been some misjudgments by a player or two, but as far as physical effort, both of these teams have left everything on this floor.
Mike Jarvis using all the allotted time for sending Colin Charles into the game, the junior from Toronto, Ontario, number 11. So it's Thornton, Charles, Barkley. That's not Charles Barkley. Mike Jarvis wishes it was. Thornton, Charles, and Barkley with Richardson and Artest, essentially a 3-guard look now for St. John's. Harrowell ties it with 1:11 remaining.
Well, one of the things you kind of like for what St. John's has got there, they've got 2 basically point guards in the basketball game. Remember, Trajan Langdon has 4 fouls on him, and Mike Krzyzewski would love to have him out there. William Avery's already fouled out.
Harrowell for the lead. Got the bounce, hit the rim, then the backboard, and fell through. 14 points for Carrawell. Duke by 1, approaching 1 minute remaining.
And it's James on Thornton. He seemed to be the guy you'd want to get the ball to. Here he comes off the baseline.
Artest gave it back to Thornton. He missed the short one. Brand rebounded and then lost it. They're on the floor. And as the ball came squirting out.
What's this call?
I don't know. Tim Higgins.
I'm not sure the referee knows either. Let's see. What's the call?
He came out waving his arms apart, a signal that would be a full timeout ordinarily, but that couldn't be the call there.
I have no idea. Now you see Mike Krzyzewski limping down the sidelines. He is really in some pain here. What is the call?
What is that gesture? Ordinarily that's a signal you would give to indicate a full timeout.
We know nobody's going to the foul line. I have no idea whose ball it is. What's he going to call it? A tie-up?
A held ball.
Yep.
It was held for a while, although the whistle blew well after that ball. It squirted out, and on the possession, it will go to St. John's. And Mike Jarvis is called for a timeout. What a game, and still 52.5 seconds remaining in New York.
CBS sports coverage of the road to the Final Four is sponsored by Volvo. Volvo reminds you to drive safely. Nike and the Nike Alpha Project. And by Microsoft. Where do you want to go today?
Welcome back to Madison Square Garden. Time now for the Arthur Anderson wise decision of the game. Billy, both coaches today, they've had to make an unbelievable number of decisions because of all the foul trouble.
Absolutely, and you've got to give them both credit regardless of who wins or loses this game. There are a lot of mind games that went on between Coach Krzyzewski out there and Mike Jarvis today, so they had to make a lot of wise decisions.
And both did, so we'll give it to each of them, Krzyzewski and Jarvis, for their management of their team in the face of the foul difficulty.
Now we've got that arrow pointing in favor of St. John's.
Until it comes in. As soon as it does, I'm told it's going to change to Duke.
Okay.
So it was a tie-up, and the arrow was consulted, and that's why St. John's gets the ball here with a fresh 35 on the shot clock. 52.5 seconds left in regulation. Barkley to inbound with Artest, Richardson, Charles, and Thornton.
Wow, I'm surprised Artest didn't take a drive to the basket.
Richardson, he seemed to be their last option, with the exception of Charles.
And a steal by Artest, but he goes out of bounds on his way out, screams for the timeout, and gets it. Now, we talked about wise decisions. I don't think that was a wise one by St. John's. I mean, you've got Artest with the ball, Battier on him, let him go ahead and drive to the basket. Terrific rebound, but watch what Ron Artest does here. You know what? He was out of bounds. His foot hit the out of bounds before he called a timeout. Here we're going to have an angle of certainly a great hustle play by Ron Artest. Now watch, his foot is here. Now he calls the timeout signal here, but the official, we're going to see from a different angle, took the verbal call. There's the verbal. His foot is not yet hit. The official is calling the timeout. So in any case, Ron Artest makes a great hustle play and then a very smart play to call the timeout, and gets the call.
Mike Krzyzewski did question that call during the timeout. St. John's with the ball down by 1.
They get the same situation. Artest should drive to the basket. Here he goes.
Battier just fell down. Artest missed a wide open shot. Rebound. Charles lost it over the sideline in the race with Langdon, who was careful with his 4 fouls.
Now you have a situation where you want the ball in Trajan Langdon's hands if you're Duke. He's the great free throw shooter, and he's pretty good with the ball, but he's being guarded by a very quick, smaller guard. Oh, they call the quick bump foul on Barkley. So Langdon will go to the foul line, but still a lot of time to go.
There are only 2 players on the court, Barkley and Charles, who could commit a foul because any of the other 3 St. John's players would have fouled out.
You know, I think if you're Duke, a move now would be to try to get Langdon out of this ball game after the free throws. Let somebody else play on the defensive end, because you sure don't want him on the bench when you've got the ball offensively.
Best free throw shooter in the history of the ACC makes the first. It's a 2-point lead for Duke with 30 seconds left.
Still plenty of time, 30 seconds to go. You don't have to go for a three-point shot if he happens to make this one.
St. John's is out of timeouts.
Thornton is the guy that's been best from the outside today. Here he comes off the curl.
Not going for a three yet. Brand blocked it. Artest with 17 seconds left for three. Short. Brand. He calls a timeout going.
Carrawell. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander here, huh? But St. John's, I think, and so many times you see this in the collegiate game, guys not realizing how much time 30 seconds is. You get multiple possessions, don't need the three.
Duke by 3 in a game that has been filled with fouls, and the only timeout remaining for either team belongs to Duke, and it's a 20. The arrow points in their favor. If you're St. John's, it's got to be either a quick steal or a very quick foul, Billy.
Well, Sean, in this particular case, two strategies you see coaches use a lot. One is to go long and take advantage of the fact that St. John's probably going to try to prevent the ball from getting in bounds. But I think with a 3-point lead, 12 seconds to go, you ought to play it if you're getting the ball in bounds going in the opposite direction, and you want to run screens to get the inbounds pass to Trajan Langdon so that he'll be fouled. Don't want somebody else. So there goes a man going wrong. Here comes Langdon coming to get the ball.
That's the last time out of the game for either team. A 20 called by Battier.
Poorly executed by Duke. Took too much time to get Langdon the screen.
So neither team has a timeout. They have both completely emptied the tank in virtually every respect here today. South Carolina and Syracuse, Missouri and Kansas coming up next as the second part of our triple header. Later on, Michigan State and Indiana from the Big Ten. The Spartans alone atop the Big Ten.
Well, you know, everybody talked about Kansas. This is their down year and everything. All of a sudden, you look out, those Big 12 standings are right back. Texas with another big win last night
over Oklahoma State.
Kansas, of course, did beat Missouri at Missouri earlier this year, and that's the team that had knocked them off 2 years previous. Now look at Duke is setting up awful high now. Barkley is on Trajan Langdon. Langdon looking for the screens, and they're looking to get him the ball to commit the foul. Who did it touch? It
touched the St. John's defender, apparently Barkley, who was right in front of Langdon. They put Chudney Gray into the game as Mike Jarvis for the first time today. He's number 3, a guard, perhaps just to commit a foul if he has the chance.
Notice nobody guarding the man taking a ball out of bounds.
Bad pass, stolen. Artest to the basket.
And a foul.
Will they count that as a 3-shot opportunity?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. That's it's going to be a 3-shot opportunity at the basket. Nobody to throw the ball to. They try to go over the top to Brand. Artest gets it and just throws it towards the basket. It will be an attempt. There'll be a foul on Brand. Artest will go to the line for 3.
And that's a great job by Artest to draw that. Brand fouls out. Looked like Brand was being held by Artest as that ball was being inbounded. Artest had one arm wrapped around the hip of Brand. That one uncalled. Mike Jarvis wanted to make sure he was going to get the 3 shots for Artest, and he did.
Hey, let's talk about this young man here. Without question, athletically, one of the top kids in the Big East. But how about the 2 plays that he's made in regard to nothing to do with athleticism? He makes that play knowing he's got to go for 3. He makes the out-of-bounds play calling a timeout.
He needs to make all 3 of these free throws to tie the game. He's made 1 already. He's 3 for 3 today, but just 65% for the year. That one rattles out with 10.3 seconds left.
He wants to miss this one, and guys get moving on the boards, but there's no timeouts for St. John's to call anything. So he wants to miss.
Really?
I think so.
And just go for a quick foul.
No, I think you want to miss here and try to get possession of the ball again. Because you got to figure Duke's going to try to get the ball to Trajan Langdon. Why do I want to call him Langdon Turner?
But even if he makes one here and you foul quickly, you could still be within 3 points. He did make it.
They get it to James. He's going to be fouled
by Colin Charles, who can afford a foul. That's his first. So now James goes to the line. Nate, for the season, is a 73% free throw shooter. And today he's 2 out of 4.
And now if you're Duke University, you've got to think about the defensive end of the floor here. Missed free throws give St. John's a chance to win the game with a 2.
Duke has had an uncharacteristically poor day from the free throw line. 13 out of 24 as a team. 9.3 seconds left. Duke by 1.
And you've got to figure St. John's got Barkley out there, Charles out there, some guys who can put the ball on the floor and get it up court in a hurry.
James shooting 2.
Oh, he got the bounce. Big sigh of relief by James.
Richardson comes in, and Chudney Gray goes out.
Now, if you make this one up 3, do you foul so that St. John's can't tie you with a 3? I like that strategy.
You don't see it done very often. It seems to make sense, but it is rarely done. James made both. Now St. John's needs a 3. Down by 3. 9 seconds left.
They are not going to foul. They're trying to extend the time here for Barkley.
Artest moves closer. Long 3 to tie. Good with 1 second left.
That's why I think you should foul.
Battier stolen. Artest at the buzzer. No good. That looked like a travel before the heave, but it also looked like the officials were ready to count and hadn't gone in.
And without question, it was a travel, but Artest, does he come up big or not? Sean, that's why I think you should always foul.
Yeah.
You cannot lose the game. You know, why in the world you take the chance of letting the person tie you up? Some shot by Artest, and he's done all of this with 4 fouls on him. He got the screen and got it off. Now I think we ought to assess what do these two coaches have to play with here the rest of the way.
Well, very little.
Yeah,
it certainly advantaged Duke in terms of depth.
Well, in one respect, though, they've got only 1 guard, traditional guard, to play the rest of the way, and he's got 4 fouls on him.
That's Langdon. Avery's fouled out. Brand is fouled out, so really,
I'd say it
might be even.
Yeah.
So we're heading for overtime. First overtime game of the season for Duke. And St. John's is also going to an extra session for the first time this year.
So Duke comes out with Maggette here to start this overtime period. James, who hit the 2 key free throws, will be in that starting lineup. Trajan Langdon with the 4 fouls on himself. Battier will jump center with Brand out of there. Artest will come back in, and let's go back to, we were waiting. When is Artest going to get back in the game?
Yep.
Mike Jarvis had the guts to hang on until under that 5-minute mark, and so he gets a fresh and rested Ron Artest out there, who comes through with great plays on the court physically and mentally to bring them back.
Artest hit a 3 with 1.1 seconds remaining to tie the game and force the overtime. Each team gets a timeout in the overtime. They had expended all their timeouts in regulation. Duke already on the court with James, Carrawell, Langdon, Maggette, and Battier. And for St. John's, it's Richardson, Artest, Thornton, Barkley, and Charles.
Doesn't Richardson have 4 fouls on him?
Yes.
As well? Yeah.
Richardson has 4. Artest has 4. Thornton has 4. And for Duke, Langdon has 4. Those are all the players in the game with 4 fouls right now. Out of bounds, it'll be St. John's ball.
Maggette got the tap. Now it's James down there on Thornton. Carrawell, who's done a nice job on Barkley.
They go inside. The shot missed by Thornton. Out of bounds, it'll be St. John's ball again. 15 seconds into overtime.
Boy, St. John's getting all the calls down that end, aren't they? Every out of bounds play seems to go their way. It's a battling team. Artest has to be careful on the drives to the basket.
Yeah, if he fouls out, the balance of power really shifts. Now the help ball. Langdon reached in to tie it up, and Duke will get the ball.
Double dose for Duke, because they go ahead and keep the arrow possession as well on that play. Now here's what the play that cost Duke this game not being held in regulation. They could not get the ball in bounds either from the end quarter on the sideline.
Farewell guarded by Thornton.
James posting up down inside. Trajan Langdon's got a lot of size on Charles to shoot over the top.
Rebound Battier. He stumbled but passed off to Langdon. Traveling to call on Langdon. Trajan's had a quiet day by his standards, just 11 points. Part of that because of the foul difficulty. 3 out of 8 shooting from the floor. Hasn't taken many shots.
I think he was pressuring to take that 3 a little bit too quickly there. He should take his time. Charles a lot smaller. He can shoot over the top of him.
A minute into overtime now. Neither team has scored.
Barkley doing a smart thing here. He's got Langdon on him with 4 fouls. He's trying to beat him on the drive. Got to get the ball back to him. And there goes the switch.
In this half-court offense here, Billy, for St. John's. Charles underneath, blocked by Carrawell.
St. John's ball again.
You kind of knew it would, didn't you?
Charles made a gutsy play going underneath that basket against the trees.
He hasn't scored today. An opening for Thornton. The lefty hits it.
Duke trying to save Carrawell on Barkley. And that puts James, who's really not a defensive stopper, on Thornton. They may have to make a switch.
Career high 36 points for Bootsy Thornton, the junior from Baltimore, the junior college transfer.
See, without Brand in the game, Duke doesn't have anybody in the low post they're used to going to, so they're really out of sync in their offense.
Maggetti.
That was a carry on the play, and there's the freshman trying to do too much.
Rebound pulled out of the pile by Thornton, and he was fouled. Fouled by James, and that's 4 now on Nate James.
See the play here. Thornton, James, for some reason, thinks that Thornton is going back outside. I don't know why, and there was the good jump stop. Thornton has been tough to handle. See, the big problem for Duke now is what kind of offensive structure do they have? They don't really have a low post player. They might, and it's a tough thing to do, but think about Burgess coming into this game, so they would have somebody in the traditional low post. They've got a bunch of forwards out there right now.
Double bonus carries over, so each team will shoot 2 the rest of the way. Thornton missed the first free throw. St. John's 17 out of 25 from the line as a team. Been a lot of whistles, but you don't get the sense that it's been one-sided at all. The officials have been very balanced.
No, I think they had a style of how they're calling this game.
Yes.
See, Duke is playing with 1 guard and 4 forwards. Charles being rested and fresh is using his quick feet on Trajan Langdon.
Duke has not scored in overtime. More than 2 minutes gone by.
They just can't get the ball in an offensive set because they're playing with such a strange lineup.
And St. John's has really extended the half-court defense out here, pressuring everywhere. Langdon.
There's a foul. It's going to be Richardson's 5th.
Richardson is out.
Well, this was almost a desperation drive by Trajan Langdon. There was nothing in the half-court set to go to, so he just put the ball on the floor. Just a touch foul by Richardson. Trajan Langdon goes down, and that's what Duke would like to have, is this young man on that foul line.
They had very little depth in the front court at the start of the game. We talked about that without Tyrone Grant, their starting center, out with the wrist injury, and now they've lost 3 front court players to fouls. Reggie Jesse and Albert Richardson, 2 starters, and LeVar Postel, their very valuable 6th man.
And remember, St. John started this game without Tyrone Grant, who would certainly be able to use up 5 fouls and their outstanding rebounder. Richardson really played a fine game for a young man that was asked to do a lot. He's only been playing up to substitute levels in the past, only averaging 12 minutes a game.
Langdon made the first of 2. Richardson left at just 3 points, but he banged Brand particularly all day, and it was Brand who fouled out well ahead of Richardson. Those of you just joining us, Elton Brand and William Avery, 2 starters, have fouled out for Duke. Langdon made 2. It's a 1-point lead for St. John's. The 3-point lead here in overtime matched their largest lead they've had all day.
And they've changed their offensive structure now. They're surrounding Artest on the front, everybody cutting.
Chudney Gray called for a charge, and again, Billy, in a key situation, their offensive option is a guy who's barely been in the game today.
Yeah, this is an open set offense by St. John's, though, and a nice move by Mike Jarvis. But there's Battier, who is so qualified. The way he goes and moves those feet to draw those charges. Just does it so well. Small man on big man here in the dribble. Carrawell's got to be careful. Whoa. Almost loses it once.
Great quickness on defense by Charles. We know Carrawell's not ordinarily the point guard. 2 minutes left in overtime. James, awkward shot, didn't get it. Battier, chance for 3.
That's Artest, I think, fouling from behind. You see this, James Duke is just trying to create offense. There's a double pump to get it up. Is that no, it wasn't Artest. I thought it was Artest for the 5th. James kept it alive. The shot turned out to be a pretty good pass.
2 fouls on Charles. Battier missed. Duke leads by 1. Just under 2 minutes left in overtime.
Now watch this offensive set, see if they change it. Yeah, they do. Thornton would like to drive.
Barkley does drive in traffic, out of control. Offensive charge.
Battier again. Is he the best in the country at drawing charges or not?
Has to be.
Unbelievable. There you see him. He just holds his ground in there, keeps his hands straight up in a good defensive position. People that play against Duke have to realize he's going to be down inside. The young man who worked on Wall Street this summer. Intelligent player.
Apparently they're saying this time the ball was gone when the contact took place, because they are going to have shooting for Battier. 3 fouls on Barkley.
I think if you're Mike Krzyzewski, you'd rather have possession of the ball, don't you think?
Perhaps.
Get the ball in Trajan Langdon's hands, get him on the line.
Battier 71% for the season, just 1 out of 3 from the line today. Duke by 2 as Battier made the first. 86-84. Battier made both. A 3-point lead for Duke. We've been here before.
And Barkley still has to realize they don't need 3.
Thornton looking inside for Artest. Guarded by Battier. Artest fouled on a reach-in by James. And that is 5 on Nate James.
And that'll probably, when you start looking down that Duke bench, you see the ball going inside. Artest just being very patient. He realized the double team's coming. I don't know where you'd have called that foul on James. I didn't see him make any contact. Battier came over the back. Now, does Mike Krzyzewski go tall here? He's got Burgess on the bench as far as most playing time, and it is going to be Burgess coming in. So that gives him rebounding at a time when he'd really like ball handling. But with Avery out of there, he's got no place to go.
Burgess averages 17.5 minutes per game. Today he played just 3 minutes in the first half. James with a spirited message for Burgess as Nate departs.
Now, one thing it may do for Duke, Burgess is a post man, so it gives them a low post offensive player.
Artest made the first of 2.
Remember the difficulty Duke had getting the ball inbounds.
Yes.
This is what's going to come up right now. They want to get Trajan Langdon coming off a screen, catching the ball in the inbounds.
5 out of 7 from the line now. Artest. He made 1 out of 2. Duke with the ball up by 2. Carrawell rebounded and controls.
I'm surprised Carrawell constantly wants to challenge these smaller, quicker guys with his dribble.
Carrawell, Langdon, Battier, Maggette, and Burgess for Duke, and a foul on the drive against Charles.
Trajan Langdon showing a little bit of quickness on that move to the hoop.
3 personals on Charles. 1:03 left in overtime. And Langdon will shoot 2. South Carolina and Syracuse, Missouri, and Kansas underway. We'll be getting you out to those games as soon as we're finished in this memorable battle here at Madison Square Garden.
With this young man, it's almost, if it hits the rim, it should count against him. I mean, he is a great stroke on his shot. Beautiful rotation, a lot of confidence, a lot of character.
He's 7 out of 8 from the line today. Now it's a 2-possession game. Duke by 4. Under a minute left in overtime. Thornton buries another 3.
He has been sensational. They want to get the ball back to Trajan Langdon. Try to get him on that foul line. Duke will have to give up the ball.
40 points for Bootsy Thornton today. 40 of the 88 St. John's points. Duke by 1. Shot clock at 18.
Trajan Langdon wanting a solid screen up high. He's got to be careful about 5 seconds.
Langdon started it and lost it. Artest had it poked away by Maggette. Timeout Duke. What a play by Maggette.
And a play by Artest. Just great hustle on the part of both of these teams. It's like an NCAA tournament game, isn't it? Great.
Done a Billy Packer back at Madison Square Garden in overtime. It's Duke leading by 1. They had a 3-point lead in the last seconds of regulation time when Ron Artest hit this shot to force the extra session.
And that came up with a sideline out of bounds interception. And Duke's got the same play right now. They've got Trajan Langdon down in the baseline. Now he's going to try to curl off some people to get this ball. Here come the solid screens. Deep in the backcourt. Are they going to foul the freshman? They don't get a chance.
Now they foul Carrawell, and if that's Artest, he's out of the ball game. Barkley raised his hand to say it was on me, but Larry Rose called it on Artest.
Boy, I'm really surprised that Duke didn't break Trajan Langdon long there to let him have the inbounds pass, because you almost had a situation where it put the freshman on the foul line. Now Artest did not want to foul. Barkley gets there a little late, and there's the reach in by Ron Artest, who had a sensational basketball game here today.
22 points and 3 rebounds, and he sat out about 8 minutes of the second half with foul trouble. Meanwhile, Bootsy Thornton kept them in the game and then some while Artest was out. He has 40 points today, the first St. John's player to score 40 in a game since Malik Sealy on November 24th of 1990, when he set a school record for a St. John's player by scoring 43 at Alumni Hall against much lesser competition than Thornton has faced today. That was against Central Connecticut State in the finals of the Lapchick tournament. So Bootsy Thornton with 3 more points would tie the St. John's record for points in a game.
Well, the all-time St. John's record goes all the way back, and this is kind of surprising, 1950. Against St. Peter's, Bob Zawalik had 65. So we talk about that Assembly Hall type records, and then we got Garden records, and you get St. John's records. So in any case, he's had a tremendous game.
Carrawell at the line. Mike Jarvis at the scorers table, unhappy about something. His assistants are also over there.
No, he's saying that it was Maggette that should be shooting the free throws, I think.
No, it was Carrawell.
But it was Carrawell. Yes, it certainly was. Yeah, Carrawell's the one that was fouled. Remember, he got the ball from Maggette and then came through the pack. So they have the right man on the line.
Now Mike Jarvis wants to call his timeout.
Trying to freeze the shooter here.
And Tim Higgins is going to give him the timeout.
That's his last timeout. You know, you might think that he wants to go ahead and decide exactly what his team's going to do in these situations.
Duke by 2, and Chris Carrawell has another free throw remaining. The team fouls are the second half and overtime totals, not the game totals, although on another day they would be game totals.
Here's the play that Mike Jarvis, he thought that the foul was called on Maggette, but it obviously was not. It was Carrawell who came through the double team. There's the foul being called. So Mike Jarvis felt that Maggette should be on the line. The officials were all over it. Carrawell on the line for the second of 2.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd argue that point, because Carrawell's a 58% free throw shooter and Maggette is 78%.
Well, maybe he figures a freshman might not be able to stand the pressure as well. But the officials were correct on that one.
They have been through much of the day. It hasn't been an easy game to officiate. A lot of whistles, but they've been consistent anyway.
Duke backs off. How about Barkley on a drive, keeping the dribble alive?
They could use a three here, down by 3 with 10 seconds to go. Barkley forces one up. No, rebound, and a huge one by Carroll, and he's fouled coming out of the pack.
Now, Barkley did the right thing. He kept the ball in his hands. He's the guy that can go ahead and be in the best position of what's left on the floor. Even though Thornton has had the big game, with that amount of time, I think Barkley did the right thing. Keep the ball in his hands, drive, take the three-pointer.
Think back to what Mike Jarvis said yesterday. He said, no matter what, this is really a no-lose situation for us tomorrow. It's a national TV, full house, #2 team in the country. He thinks Duke's the most talented team in the country. He said, we're not expected to win. If we do, it's a bonus. If we don't, we play well. We pull something out of it. And no matter what happens today, I think his team made a statement. They are a legitimate top 10, top 15 team in the country.
Well, with 4-2 to go, they still got a chance.
Especially after that miss.
That's right. They still have a chance.
Carroll missed the first of 2.
Now, the one thing Mike has to do is for these fellas not to take any satisfaction out of this ball game, because they've got back-to-conference tough games coming up. They'll have Connecticut in here next Sunday after going to Syracuse.
That was a huge make. Now it's a 4-point game. Barkley missed a 3 at the buzzer, and Duke survives in overtime. 14 straight wins for the Blue Devils as they go to 19-1. And St. John's is now 16-4.